God's richest blessings to you. Where we left off last time, we were talking about how for Muslims, they do not know if they will have salvation or not. Their salvation is based upon their deeds of righteousness. And Allah is the only one who can be this judge. And from the Quran, it says, "It may be that your Lord will remit from you your evil deeds and bring you into gardens underneath which rivers flow on the day when Allah will not abase the Prophet and those who believe with him. Their light will run before them, and on them right hands. They will say, O Lord, perfect our light for us and forgive us. Lo, thou art able to do all things." It's presented in the Quran as our deeds shall be weighed. Then those whose balance of good deeds is heavy, they will be successful. But those whose balance is light will be those who've lost their souls. In hell they will abide. And since Allah is the only perfect judge, He's the one that knows if your good deeds are outweighing your bad deeds. So He's the one that makes this decision. Now, part of having your deeds judged rightly is following the 5 pillars of Islam. The 5 pillars are: the first, the Shahada, which is a creed. The second is Salah, which is prayer. Third, Zakah, which is charity. Fourth is Swam, which is fasting during Ramadan. Fifth is Hajj, which is a pilgrimage. As I discussed in that last part, when it comes to pillars, pillars support what's above. They hold things up. And for Islam, Muslims have these 5 pillars. They support one's faith. In Christianity, we do not have a pillar. We don't speak of pillars that hold up our faith. Instead, we have a foundation. The foundation is Jesus Christ, His works for us, for our salvation. He's our foundation. We stand upon Him. He then is the one that supports our faith. So for Muslims, these 5 pillars support their faith. These are things they must do in order to be judged rightly at the end of time when when Allah makes His judgment. So to go through these briefly, the Shahada is the testimony and declaration of faith. The creed of Islam is that there is no God but Allah and Muhammad is His messenger. This single sentence, when recited in belief, makes someone a Muslim. Muslims would say that Christians believe in 3 gods. As Christians, we also deny the words of Muhammad, so we do not accept this creed, even though we would say there's only one God. Muslims, deny that Jesus was God. They say He was a prophet, though. That's something that's going to be helpful moving forward with sharing the gospel with Muslims. Muslims also say that Muhammad was a prophet. He was not divine. So maybe some people could not know that about Islam. They could think that they worship Muhammad. They do not. He's a prophet, as the creed says. Muhammad is His messenger. This creed is the first sentence whispered in a baby's ear. I find that to be an interesting take there. That just as within Christianity, faith comes from hearing. You see that shown in Islam. It's also a religion that is based on words and mediation, where people come to faith through hearing and then believing those words. So for them, first words whispered in a baby's ear, the Shahada. The second one, Salah, prayer 5 times a day. They are to pray facing towards Mecca. Before they pray, they're supposed to wash their hands, wash their feet, wash their face. They're supposed to be clean. If you are out and about, you need to have a prayer mat with you because you don't want to pray on ground which is dirty. So they have a prayer mat. So they need to know where Mecca is at all times. We live in a modern day age. I'm pretty sure you can find an app on your phone to tell you which direction Mecca is. This also means when mosques are built, they're designed so where the community will be facing towards Mecca when they make their prayers as a community. Zakat is you're supposed to give 2.5% of your income to charity. I've heard this is actually supposed to be 2.5% of what's left over after paying your bills and everything. So it would be less than 2.5% of your income if that is actually the case there. As Christians, we like to stress giving 10% to the church. Note this is 2.5% to charity, so it's different than giving 10% to the church as Christians do. But we may think 2.5% is very little. But, if we look at how much Christians give, many Christians give this amount or less as well. Psalm, this is fasting during the month of Ramadan. This is every year then. You are to fast. I have a video to play for this one. Hopefully it doesn't get blocked because under some copyright block. If it does, I will have to add in something different. Okay, here we go. Here's from an expert on Ramadan. At least seems to be in.
I want to extend best wishes on behalf of the American people, including Muslim communities in all 50 states. I want to extend best wishes to Muslims in America and around the world. Ramadan Kareem. Ramadan is the month in which Muslims believe the Qur'an was revealed to the Prophet Muhammad, beginning with a simple word, Iqra. It is therefore a time when Muslims reflect upon the wisdom and guidance that comes with faith, and the responsibility that human beings have to one another and to God. Like many people of different faiths who've seen Ramadan through our communities and families, I know this to be a festive time, a time when families gather and meals are shared. But I also know that Ramadan is a time of intense devotion and reflection, a time when Muslims fast during the day and perform Taraweeh prayers at night, reciting and listening to the entire Qur'an over the course of the month. These rituals remind us of the principles that we hold in common, and Islam's role in advancing justice, progress, tolerance, and the dignity of all human beings. For instance, fasting is a concept shared by many faiths, including my own Christian faith, as a way to bring people closer to God, and to those among us who cannot take their next meal for granted. And the support that Muslims provide to others recalls our responsibility to advance opportunity and prosperity for people everywhere. For all of us must remember that the world we want to build and the changes that we want to make must begin in our own hearts and our own communities.
I think that's enough. You get the idea. Ramadan. Next. All right, I'm going to stop that now. So you heard from former President Obama about Ramadan, and he seems to know quite a bit. He does a good job presenting it. I do find it very interesting that this is not just a month of fasting. There's also a lot of feasting and festivities. So it's during daylight hours. They're not to eat, they're not to drink, but at nighttime when the sun goes down, they feast and drink a lot and have a good time together. You also see that during this feasting and festivities, they also are reading the Quran, and they read the entire Quran during this month. This is a very difficult fast, though, even though there's a lot of feasting and festivals at night. During the day, you're not even supposed to have water. So this can actually be quite difficult, especially in our culture. If you were an Islamic country, it would be a lot easier. Not as much work would be expected and put upon you during this month. At least that's my assumption. Something to add on the prayers 5 times a day. Friday's mid-afternoon prayer. That is the key time when Muslims come together for prayer during the week. The whole community is supposed to come together, that Friday prayer. And on that time, there is usually a message from the imam. It would be like a Christian sermon at a church on Sunday. So they teach from the Quran and do applications of that message to the people gathered there. That would be the imam, the leader of the local mosque that does that Friday afternoon. Again, doesn't really fit with our culture so much, does it, for them to be able to gather then? But you'll may not be surprised that Muslims still find time, even in our culture, where Friday afternoon still usually business work hours. They still can get together. With the fasting during Ramadan, back to Ramadan, it is not required of you if you are physically not capable at that time to have that fast. The 5th pillar is the Hajj, which is a pilgrimage to Mecca at least once in a lifetime. There is that exception of if a person's not physically able or financially able to make that trip, they can be excused. But the goal, make it to Mecca at least once in your lifetime. Let me play another little video here. This shows some of what they do during this pilgrimage. And again, this, who knows, it could be copyrighted and blocked. So if that happens, it will be removed by me. But this gives a description by Muslims looking at it into what they think about how they view this activity. Okay, that's enough there on on this. So, just in case I had to remove that video because it got blocked by YouTube for some reason, I do want to just stress that you saw in that this trip is not necessarily a fun trip per se. I would love to get to my screen to be on there. Like, why can't I have my webcam now? Flip to my webcam. Okay, so just in case that video did get blocked by YouTube and I had to remove it, just some quick summary on it. So if you're seeing me without the video on the Hajj, it's because I had to remove it eventually because of censorship or copyright block. I personally don't see it as a problem because you can still see the organization that made the video and still gives them credit, exposes their message to a broader audience. But you saw in there that this is not just a walk in the park when you take the Hajj. There's a lot involved. You're actually walking, in some cases, they're actually walking great distances. You saw like going to the different mountains, you're going from Mecca to Medina and back, and various ways you're having to throw stuff. You saw in the video the sheer number of people that end up being there at one point in time. Mecca blossoms, huge amounts of people go because there's a special time where the Hajj is desired to be performed, and during that time, it's I think you get more bonus points because you saw in there again and again things needing to be done properly. That was worded about it, doing this trip properly, and so all these pillars are a burden in many ways. Although you saw in there how it can also not be a burden. We all as Christians can understand this idea of being caught up in work, caught up in materialism, taking a spiritual journey, spiritual trip. We have these at our churches. They're called retreats. And it does help us to get outside of ourselves, get outside of the demand to make money, demand for business, demand for worldly expectations, and just focus on what is real with God. So that's how they apply the Hajj and how they at least approach it. But built into that, though, is doing it properly, doing it rightly in order for your salvation. There is a burden on you, even though they may try to present it as this blessed thing that can help you. There is a real burden of doing it rightly. It must be done. It must be done in order for you to get to heaven. And our spiritual retreats and things like that do not earn or merit us salvation at all in Christianity. It's solely by the work of Jesus Christ. Even their prayers, you have to wash yourself first. You have to face certain directions. You have to do it correctly. They go from standing to kneeling to laying prostrate to back to the kneeling, back to standing. They do this motion multiple times. They have recited rote prayers. It's not like they get to just present their problems to God. They have to do it at set times. They have to say set words. It's not a relational type prayer that is done out of the love we've received from Christ, from God, from the grace of God, responding and going to a God that we know loves us and accepts us as we are. That is not what they get in Islam. So all these pillars, work-based, all these pillars lead to a weight of the law upon the Muslim. It's something that they know they cannot necessarily fully live up to. They're just hoping their good deeds outweigh their bad in the end, and none of them have assurance of this. So this is where the gospel really needs to come in, which is where we're going to be going. We're going to be presenting the gospel. That is the goal, to get to the gospel. All right, so here we go with additional Islamic practices. All right, some of this stuff we've already covered. Some of it we haven't. So this we've covered. Let me get this. Do Muslims eat pork? Do Muslims eat pork? The answer is no, they don't eat pork. So this would be one of those carryovers from Judaism. Pork was an unclean animal for the Jews. Like I said, I think Muhammad kind of did a blender religion where he mixed and merged these various practices of Judaism, Christianity, and what was there in Saudi Arabia to make his own religion. Either that, Satan gave him all this based on what was there in that region religiously. So carry over from Judaism, don't eat pork. But is beef okay? The answer is yes, beef is okay. What about lamb? Yeah, lamb's okay. When I lived in China, Muslim restaurants were known for having their lamb and beef products, and it was great. Most places in China had chicken and pork. Alcohol, negative. Muslims are not supposed to drink alcohol at all. No. Oh, but smoking's okay. I mean, clearly this lady, she's completely covered up. She seems to be a devout practicing Muslim. So, but smoking's okay. And if you know much about kind of the Islamic culture, hookah smoking is oftentimes associated with people from Islamic backgrounds. The question is, why would smoking be okay? Because it's not strictly forbidden in the Quran. However, wine is forbidden. So verses speak against harming yourself or others. So most leaders today use these verses to say smoking is forbidden. However, there isn't unanimous agreement. Drawing interest on loans, no. But commissions might be charged. So that's where the people that lend out money still would make their profit is off the commission. Viva Las Vegas. And by this, I don't mean everything pictured here. I'm talking about the gambling. Definitely not. Not supposed to gamble. Circumcision. It's a good one. Circumcision. Do Muslims have circumcision like the Jews as a requirement? So 7 to 8 years old is common, not 8 days like in Judaism for circumcision. So males are circumcised in Islam, but 7 to 8 years old. I've seen video documentaries of this where, like in a town or village, like this be like smaller scale town or village. Everyone that's in that age bracket knows each other, and so they all go in together to have the circumcision. This is something they would definitely remember. And the sad thing, some females are also circumcised at or before puberty in Islam. Very, very wicked stuff right there. Even in America, this happens. They call it cutting vacations. They will fly out of the country to have this done and fly back into America. And of course, there are some doctors that will perform this for money in America. Very sick, very wicked. Is male circumcision commanded in the Quran? No, it is not. But we got this from the Hadiths. Usama's father relates that the Prophet said circumcision is a law for men and a preservation of honor for women. Preservation of honor. Narrated by Umayyah Ansariyah. A woman used to perform circumcision in Medina. The Prophet, peace be upon him, said to her, "Do not cut severely, as that is better for a woman and more desirable for a husband." Very wicked stuff. Look it up. Female circumcision. It's in the Islamic world. It's in the Hadiths of something that is honorable for women. Honorable, right? Marriages, they're arranged. It's more like a legal contract. Woman becomes legal responsibility of her husband. Surah 4:3 teaches polygamy, and if you fear that you will not deal justly with the orphan girls, then marry those that please you of other women, 2 or 3 or 4. But if you fear that you will not be just, then marry only one or those your right hand possesses. That is more suitable that you may not incline to injustice. So you're supposed to love your wives equally. So, I've heard some modern day Muslims try to explain away this polygamy is like, nah, polygamy wasn't what was recommended because it was more recommended only marry one because what's the likelihood that you're going to treat them all justly? You're going to be inclined to love one more than the other. So really, this isn't a command to marry 4, it's a command to marry 1. But I see very clearly in here, if you fear that you're going to not deal justly with the orphan girls. And who would these orphan girls be? These would be those girls that, probably you killed their parents in war, because it talks about it. Those your right hand possesses would be those that you have from war. And if you fear that you won't be just, if you fear you can't keep your hands off those women that your right hand possessed through war, sure would be better to marry them. I mean, this is like wicked evil stuff, guys. Surah 33:50. Oh, Prophet, how many wives can the Prophet get? Good old Muhammad. Surely we have made lawful to you your wives whom you have given their dowries, and those whom your right hand possesses out of those whom Allah has given you as prisoners of war, and the daughters of your paternal uncles, and the daughters of your paternal aunts, and the daughters of your maternal uncles, and the daughters of your maternal aunts, and a believing woman, if she gave herself to the Prophet desired to marry her, especially for you, not for the rest of believers. So especially for you, Muhammad, you get to marry as many women as you want. We know what we have ordained for them concerning their wives and those their right hand possesses, in order that no blame may attach to you. Oh man, wonderful. Surah 434, men are in charge of women, but right of what Allah has given one over the other and what they spend for maintenance from their wealth. So righteous women are devoutly obedient, guarding in the husband's absence what Allah would have them guard. Oh, I wonder maybe that's why they'd have female circumcision. Keep them to guard what, should be safe for their husband. But those wives from whom you fear arrogance, first advise them, then if they persist, forsake them in bed, and finally strike them. Hit those women. But if they obey you once more, seek no means against them. Indeed, Allah is ever exalted. This is where you do get females being stricken in Islam. You've probably heard about it in the news. It comes from those arrogant women. What about the virgins for men in paradise? You've heard about this. Robin Williams made the joke about it actually being Virginians, and they stomp those Muslims. 70 Virginians in paradise, and these Southern Virginians stomp these Islam followers. But no, it's virgins for men in paradise. It's in the Quran. In them are women, limiting their glances, untouched before them by man or genie. So virgins. And then also in the Quran, indeed, we have produced the women in paradise in a new creation and made them virgins, devoted to their husbands and of equal age. Indeed, for the righteous there shall be gardens and vineyards and full-breasted companions of equal age. Roles of men vary from Islamic country to Islamic country, Islamic community to Islamic community. Sometimes you see women completely covered, and sometimes you get this here, Muslim girl. Wow, it's quite a stark difference, would you not say? The Quran, I'll skip ahead a little bit on some of this. We've already covered it. Practices. What should Muslims do before reading the Quran? They should wash their hands. This isn't just a book they can pick up. Oftentimes the Muslims will have the Quran and even a protective sleeve. Very, very nice protective wrap. Cloth wrap, and they'll have to take it out after washing their hands. It's usually kept on a stand. Very well preserved. It's not so much like in America or with Christians, where we may have a Bible in the bathroom. Oh, God forbid you put the Quran in the bathroom or treat the Quran the way we sometimes treat our Bibles. Are translations of the Quran authoritative? That would be a negative. You need to read the Quran in Arabic. It's not authoritative in any way if it's translated. So, there we go. That's some beliefs and practices of Islam. Hopefully you found that helpful. Hopefully you found that interesting. Again, 5 pillars, some of those practices I just shared. All these things are things that a Muslim must do to merit salvation. They are literally trapped in a system of law, which leads them to uncertainty and no trust in their salvation. So moving forward, I'm going to have divisions in Islam before presenting the gospel to Muslims. Peace in Christ. Hope you are enjoying this series so far.